Okay, blessed morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know we're still going to have more attendees as we go on the way, but then we have to start. And it's my pleasure to be your moderator today as we take on the topic Nollywood's place on the global stage. My name is Ololade Okedare. I'm a story development consultant and I run Emerge Story Lab where we discover and mentor African writers. And we do not just help them to find their voices, but we also take them through a rigorous story development process, helping them to develop their stories from ideas to scripts and eventually funnel them through a representation talent management system where they then get attached to production houses, studios, and streamers. Yes, so this morning I have with me a wonderful, amazing set of panelists who actually represent the movers and shakers of Nollywood. All right, okay, so we're going to make this, thank you, yes, a round of applause for my panelists. We're going to make this as authentic as possible. So you might want to grab your notepads if you've not been conversant with the kind of lingo that we share in Nollywood. This might be a great place to learn some of that lingo. So guys, feel free to swear your local dialect. You can have a sprinkle of Peter Dochier's proverb here and there, and let's just have fun. Okay, so I'm going to have you introduce yourselves because this guy's profile is so long. If I start, you might as well finish a Nollywood film in that same time. All right, we don't want to compete with that. So just a little brief, let's know who you are. Starting with Yolanda.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Yolanda Okereke. I'm a costume designer, both film and television in Nollywood and Pan-Africa. Also a producer. So I'm here with my colleagues to talk about Nollywood on the global stage.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. All right, Jite, go for it. Let's hope Esse's mic comes on.
Okay, yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Oh,
go ahead.
Okay, you're on.
All right, so guys, my name is Esse, Akwawa. I'm representing Okereke Studios. We're known for the series like Visa on Arrival, The Ollie, Clinically Speaking, and amazing shows out of Jite. And here, let's get it.
No, that's like talk like a
Thank you.
So we work together. My name is Jite Ovueraye, Head of Marketing and Operations at Accelerate TV, international entertainment platform with an SVOD app that's available internationally where you can watch the best of African content. So we work with many of these people and we have their content on our app. So yeah, download accelerateplus.tv.
Amazing. Trust the marketing. Nice one. All right.
I am the co-founder and CEO of Inkblot Productions. We are a production company out of Nigeria making local content for the global stage. We have relationships, good partnerships, and commissions from streamers like Netflix. If you've seen Far From Home, that's our show. And we're also I would say the first company out of Africa to get an output deal with Amazon.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Mimi. I was thinking of like cool accolades, but like Zulu dropped it. So how do I follow that? So I'm the general manager for FilmOne Studios, sister companies, Filmhouse Cinemas, FilmOne Entertainment, and Sandbox Sound Studios as well. Sometimes we make films, sometimes they're hits. For it, I guess any hits you can think of probably came from FilmOne. So if I do this, then it will be a good film in itself. So hopefully we can discuss more on Nollywood. That's why we're here.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, so let's start from the very beginning, or Beningin, as we say in Nigeria. let's talk about the evolution of Nollywood, right? So I'm going to give a brief background to some of you who do not know how Nollywood came to be. We had filmmakers, the first generation of Nigerian filmmakers back in the 60s, such as Ololade, Abrath Ogunde, Jab Adun, Moses Olaiya, and Eddie Woman, who started with folk opera. You're right. We had Ogunde Theatre back in the day, and now we have what we know as Nollywood, and even new Nollywood by the academics, right? We've definitely made major leaps. Living in Bondage in 1992 is credited as the first commercially successful video film in Nigeria. However, before it, video films were being produced in local indigenous languages, with the first being Ade Ajiboye's Sosomeji in 1988, and we also had Moses Olaya's Agbaman in 1992. All right, so Nollywood has come a very long way from its grassroots origin, right? So, but could you share your insights on this journey and highlight key milestones and turning points that have shaped its current status on the global stage? Anyone wants to go for that? What do you think in terms of the very critical milestones that we've achieved so far as an industry that has brought us, onto this global stage that we are right now?
That's very
All right, so everybody's going to take this. Okay. Amazing. Let's all take it.
Jite.
Well, the history of Nollywood is long, and it just shows the drive and passion of Nigerians. We've always been passionate about doing what we need to do. Coming to a lot of these conferences in different countries, we've learned that the governments always push them and back them and have funds. And in Nigeria, we found that it was a slow process for the government to back us, so we decided to all back ourselves, and we've been pushing and pushing. And Nollywood has had lots of different stages. With the time when we had a new movie or a new series, 10 new series coming out every day. People used to sell DVDs on the streets.
Yes.
Those would transition, people would buy them and travel to a different country. And we've gotten to the point now that we have these powerhouses like Inkblot and FilmOne doing movies like The Wedding Party, which I want to say was another major milestone to showcase that we can not only create interesting stories, but we can create them well with amazing cameras and great directors and things like that. And the journey's still going.
Yes.
I would just like to add to that. I mean, going back to the days of Ogun days and the Afolayan days, Nollywood was theatre.
Mm-hmm.
I remember back then we had this theatre in Idimu, National Theatre in Idimu.
Yes.
That was like the home base for Nollywood. That was where it all started. With the theatre shows, and I was probably not born then, but I know my parents were ardent followers of Nigerian cinema, Nigerian films, Nigerian music. So that's where even my interest kind of started from. So back then it was like a culture, it was like a following. Nollywood was called, you had to be a Nollywood person. Then, I think it was in the 90s that we now started importing Western music and Western shows. Back then, was Nollywood music, it was Nollywood films, it was Nigerian music. So I feel like our forefathers kind of like rooted us in Nollywood right before we were even born. And that kind of like transcended onto our parents and onto us eventually. And I would never take one of them without giving it up to these people back then, the old days, and people who held down theatre in Nigeria. So for me, that's where the birth of it started from.
Amazing. And those were days where they didn't receive much compensation, much reward, as it were, in terms of monetary compensation.
It was all about passion.
It was passion for them, and they went from town to town, state to state, doing their thing, and it was amazing to see how they would pack crowds on the streets. Right? And seeing how that has evolved right now into what we have, and I'm particular about the fact that part of the milestones, and I thought you were going to mention that, is just being able to have OTT platforms, right? Like you, being able to watch from the comfort of your home, not having to go to the cinema. Well, of course, we want you to go to the cinema. Mimi's here, she's going to get it. All right. But just that amazing evolution. Mimi, talk about that.
What, cinema or the
Cinema. Yeah, part of that evolution into,
okay,
what
before,
cinema used to be.
before I speak about cinema, I'm just even going back to like, I think it was 1929 or so, when the first Nigerian film was made. It wasn't called Nollywood at the
Obviously
time.
not.
It's interesting because it's a Western person that named us Nollywood. It was 1929 with the film Palava, if I recall. And the milestone for me, which is weird, I mean, I am weird, it's fine, is the 1960s, I believe. That's when the oil sector started booming in Nigeria. And the British owned the cinemas, before that, and they basically owned the content. In fact, it was a blessing to have a Nigerian actor. Isn't it interesting? It was interesting to have it was exciting to have a Nigerian actor in a Nigerian film at the time. And then when the British left, from my understanding, during that time, money came, and the Nigerians bought back their cinemas, and then they were able to own their content. That to me is the biggest milestone that, like, and I feel like that's where it just kicked off. Like, now we are here, this is us, we don't go.
Yes.
And then everything else, ownership really just kind of birthed from there. I mean, cinema, we came from one cinema. I remember, like, I was living in England at the time, and I would come back, and I was used to cinema in England, and I'm coming back to Nigeria. There's not one cinema in the whole country, and that was Silverbird. And I remember that I would dress up fancy to silk me up in, really, I was like, and then to come to 2023 with 75 cinemas, it's and it's still much more. It's funny enough, there's like DCI compliant cinemas, and that's like technology. I don't have the energy to describe, but that's about 81 in total. And I mean, in comparison to South Africa, that's like,
of course.
But then the numbers that you're doing with these cinemas, so and the thing about Nigerians is that they will follow.
Yeah.
We're ridiculously loyal sometimes. We're interestingly fighting ourselves, but then when it comes to that big one, we're all going to ride and die with you for some reason. I don't know what it is really about that Nigerian. Maybe ask Burna Boy, I don't know. He's better at this than I can explain. And there's always been, like from 2016, there's been at least a 5% growth in cinema. Wow. So people are actively building, and the infrastructure is there. And again, there's literally no government support. And it costs millions to build cinemas, I mean, from the projectors and everything. And then what I really respect, because I worked on my first film as a marketing person in 2010. And that's kind of like where the cinema, let me call it premium content, started to grow. I didn't make money off that film at all. It was a musical. Hakim K. Kazim was in it. And then going from that, I honestly gave up on cinema at that time. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make money here. It's not for me to go and rent equipment. And then ultimately, 2016, the movie Wedding Party came.
Yes.
And then this lady was in the trenches for that one. I was in the office, she was on set. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. So like the evolution of cinema it's like last year we did 6.9 billion naira. I mean, COVID year, we were the first African.
Post-COVID, that's important. Post-COVID.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even call it post-COVID because it was 2020.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was 2020, and once the cinema doors were open,
people came back.
And they had the number 2 grossing, highest grossing movie that year. So like clearly, so like we were just waiting, and that year recorded the highest grossing movie in West Africa.
Wow.
And he won an award and stuff. So like they were just even waiting, because I know other countries it took time
to come back.
But Nigeria, they opened those doors.
Open the door. We're coming for the popcorn.
Yeah, so like evolution of cinema in Nigeria is amazing. I proudly call it Nollywood. Some people don't like to call it Nollywood. Because it's how they call it. I'm a Nigerian filmmaker. I respect that. But I realized that if I don't call it Nollywood, how am I going to open the doors for other people? Because no matter what it is, even if you call yourself a Nigerian filmmaker or not, they're going to be like, so it's Nollywood, right? Because even if you do call yourself an American filmmaker, they're always going to say it's Hollywood.
Yes.
So I proudly hold that name Nollywood. I used to be like, hey, I'm not Nollywood, but I am. And I'm proudly Nollywood. I'm grateful for that.
Okay, amazing. So let's talk about Nollywood's impact generally. And I think that we've quite captured the hearts of audiences around the globe. I'm going to piggyback to the screening of Okedare, where I went into the crowd and then asked international audiences for their favorite actors. And it was amazing to see them, mention names like Inkblot, Oyibo, RMD. These are much older actors that have maintained relevance over the years. That's something about that. What do you think we've done well so far to hold, from generation to generation, that we have so much, what's it called, old over the audiences abroad?
I think we've been able to do that by creating memorable characters. Because when we were going for Okedare at the door of the elevator, there was a guy talking. He didn't call him Uncle or call him Osofia. So then you created a character you can remember. We have Chinedu and Osita Heme, People don't remember their names are Osita or Chinedu, they call them Aki and Popo. So when you've been able to do that, then you've made an impact, because these names are traveling. These names are traveling everywhere. You go to Dubai, someone's asking you, oh, you're Nigerian. Oh, I want to meet Osofia. So there's some of them that have just traveled. Mama Chi, her name is not Mama Chi. Her name is yeah, exactly. So I think that has that's been an incredible impact. And what is so beautiful for me, one of the best memories I think I have as a filmmaker, is being on a plane. So when you're on an airplane, you're not sure where everybody in the plane is from. Then you just say, I want to go to the bathroom. Coming back and I'm peeping at the screens and I'm seeing Nollywood film. I'm like, oh yeah, this is local. Yes, that's incredible for me. And I think one of the biggest highlights for me was TIFF 2016 wedding party. The way the world received it, I felt like I won an Oscar. Because that was like, it was a breaking ground for us in terms of showing ourselves and our culture to the world. And one of the things we're best known for in Nigeria is how we celebrate weddings. Weddings is such a big thing. So I remember when that script came, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And then that was the first time I met Zulu. She was like, so what are your ideas? I was like, because the truth is, we did a real wedding. We didn't act a real wedding. It was an actual wedding. From the dresses to everything, we had to represent culture. We do this thing we call ashwebi, where people wear the same fabric, same color, same style. That's expensive to me. Yes. So us doing that and shooting that and just being consistent with that, and then the movie came out, it was so well received and it was relatable. And I think there were some characters that people also picked from there that also just held on to. So that's global for me. So we have Far From Home, we have Blood Sisters, and all these films that when you call them, they're like, oh, yes, I know that one. I was in Esse Festival 2022, and we were like a Nollywood delegation, and they're like, oh, you guys do Blood Sisters? Like, Far From Home, same thing this year. So it's incredible when you're being recognized for your work. Yes. So that's where the streaming platforms have also just kind of like come and just push us out. So yeah. Amazing. About our stories, our stories have always traveled. I don't know why, to be honest, because all of us, we knew we were just making hits after hits after hits.
We have drama, let's drama.
But it's the drama. It's the fact, I think it's the
lot
fact
of
that,
drama.
yes, I think it's the fact that Nigerians as a people are very dramatic. We're very expressive.
Oh my goodness.
We, in everything we do, in the food we eat, the way we speak, the clothes we wear, the way we dance, music we love. We're very expressive. So I think that's kind of entertaining already, even when you're not trying to be entertaining, I don't know. But also the stories that are told that are very relatable to us, all the mother-in-law drama, all the falling in love, all the, all of that. It's I think those things entertain people naturally, especially because everyone is going through the same things, but it just looks like Nigerians go through it differently.
Yeah.
So it's that extra, this is how you guys react to that, And just eternally grateful to all our veterans veterans opened these doors for us to come in and do what we're trying to do now. Trying to open up more doors, knock down more ceilings, all of that. When we started Inkblot back in 2011, 12 years ago, we started Inkblot.
2011, I don't know.
We met a culture that was fully DVD, right? Everyone was just watching films on DVDs, and people would take those DVDs, travel, get their friends to watch it, and that's how Nollywood traveled. Cinemas were there at the time, don't get me wrong, but there was no culture for Nollywood films, for you to go and watch a Nollywood film in the cinemas. I think that's the credit that we can take, sitting on this stage, and others, all our colleagues back home, for pushing a culture that is now reaping benefits for us. The way we celebrate living in bondage is because of the economic benefits that living in bondage made us aware of. There were theaters and blah blah blah, but those things were still very tiny, in small, little rooms here and there. But when people realized you could actually make money off of this, then the industry started to take shape. And from that, coming into the cinema space now, and then streaming platforms like Accelerate TV and a lot of others, we're able to see even more economic benefits from being able to do this. So we'll continue to do the work. I mean, when we started, our first film slot, according to our standards, second film as well, we didn't make back the money that we spent on the film, right? But let me tell you what saved us. Around the time was when Oyibo TV started. And after our third film, we put our 3 films on Oyibo TV. And the comments, I promise you, it's because of those comments we continue. Because in cinemas, you don't get to really hear feedback. And you see the numbers and you're like, ooh, I shouldn't be doing this. Let me go back to my 95. But when you go digital, you get analytics. Data is something for us to be able to, for us to use to grow. And so yes, that's why it was really continued. And thankfully that year with the arbitration and the wedding party, we went to TIFF, and from then we just gotten the encouragement we needed.
Amazing. A round of applause. So let's talk about storytelling itself, the techniques we've used over the years. What do you think has changed? I want to start with you on this. In terms of the genre, in terms of even the kind of stories that we now tell, what do you think has improved over the years? And as a writer of that, I want to ask, are we guilty of what I call gentrification in terms of, taking away, the attention from our local stories, beautiful stories like Okedare, right? And then, going for elite stories, and it feels like, do we have a great balance? Are we guilty of that, or is there still room for more community stories to thrive, such as Okedare?
I'm trying not to be too passionate about my answers. I just want to really want to be. So it kind of vexes me when people say this thing. And to be honest, you're right to ask this question. I don't think it's fair. When people say, oh, the stories you're doing now are too Western. But that's somebody's story. It's not fair. I live.
I'm not sorry.
No, get it
So now the stories are not what? The stories are not too Western. We've always lived these things.
Yes.
We are just telling the stories better now because we have budgets to tell them better now. But please carry on.
But notice how her voice went up a bit.
I love this.
Because to be honest, if you look at Hollywood, of course, controversy here, but I don't know what the American culture is. I continuously find out what it is when I watch their stuff. They're broken out into genres. There's the westerns, there's the horror, there's that. They go back and tell stories from the 1920s. They go back and tell stories from the 1800s. They tell stories in 2000 or whatever. Like they keep going back in time, and I feel like that's what we're doing. So when somebody says, "Oh, this story is too westernized," I'm like, "But that's somebody's story. That's not right. A community story is somebody's story. This is somebody's story. If somebody's talking about religion, that's somebody's story. It's not my fault that you didn't buy into that content. Just don't watch it. I'm sorry, there's other things that you can watch. They are community stories, they are the stories you want. If you want to see Osofia falling down and doing his normal jokes, it exists. If you want to see Akia Popo, just type on youtube.com, it will pop up. If I'm saying that this story is going to go to cinema, and I keep saying this thing to people because people keep asking me, like, oh, why do you keep doing remakes? They're original stories to tell. And I was saying that, like, do you know what? As soon as you stop watching, then we'll stop making this. It is what it is. It's not my fault. I'm just telling a story because another thing that because this same digital, sorry, I hate the Twitter space. Everybody's angry or whatever, but there are some great stories on there because people are like, oh, this is what happened to me is a thread. I'm like, get it, what can I steal from you today? And then you hear, oh, my husband stole my wife, like, right up. I'm not even kidding. If somebody does a screenshot said, like, what can we make out of this, really? So that's somebody's story to tell. So no, I don't think there's any justification.
I just want to,
I've brought up passion.
I think it also shows the growth of the industry where you can tell varied stories and you can find an audience for the different kind of stories. So it's not like the entire, if you say Nollywood stories are basically fetish based, there's some kind of ritual, someone is getting taken to a herbalist. Yes, that's one kind of story. But it's kind of weird where we're the same company, right? Inkblot, we touch on different movies. We have a movie that's a remake, we're working on a remake of an old movie which is in that vein. We've done stuff where they refer to what's that thing, maybe that you say, another rich.
Yet another rich Inkblot PIT.
So
I don't say that about
you say that
guys.
about
I do.
So
I love you guys.
So what we found is we found different storylines, we found different genres of people, and the more you can do that, the more you grow the industry, you grow the market, you grow your audience because you also introduce them to different kind of stories.
And you're with
For a very long time, yes, for a very long time we barely did action, partly because action was too expensive to do. And all of a sudden someone did action and everybody was like, you know what?
Yes.
I can do that too.
Yep.
Now you've got a lot more people doing action. Mimi, a friend of ours, me was involved in an epic movie. And the movie came out and the movie did gangbusters, King of Thieves. Amazon licensed it. Now the Mumi has done her own. She has another one in development. So it's one of those things where it shows the breadth of the industry where you can continually create different kinds of stories, different kinds of genres, and people are willing to follow you down that path.
And I also believe that watch what you like. That's why I like what DSTV did. There's African Magic, Epic, there's Family, there's this one. So there's so many channels. Just watch
The
it.
sky is big enough.
Because I don't believe that because I'm from the Igbo tribe, I can't watch Yoruba. If the film is interesting, I'm going to watch it. So everybody, a taste buds different. So watch what you like because people are going to make the stories that they can relate with, that they can afford, and they think you will like it. If you don't like it, Mr. B will like it. If not, all the stories will really not exist.
I always been sad because Nigeria is a diverse place. Like, I know that the perception that a lot of people have of Nigeria is poverty, slum, and all of that. So they expect you to tell such stories, and that's why filming the Sophia, Akia Popo, then the villages was like a thing. But people need to understand that's not Nigeria. That's not all we're about. So when you still expect us to be in that Sophia era and the Kempo era, it's like you saying that we're 213 million people, diverse cultures. So you have people who live in Lagos Island, in Onitsha, in Alaba Market, there are different experiences. So we have diverse stories. So you can't say it's a Western or it's too epic. We tell all kinds of stories because we are diverse.
It's like saying you're a banker and you went Agbada to the bank. Exactly. It's not going to work. Uber is to the bank, so have that Western. It's just what it is. So you just have to try to adjust your palate and just enjoy the product that someone has gone through hell and high water to make for you. So
I think there's, let me ride on this. What would you believe there's anything called Nollywood's responsibility to preserving culture and our values as a nation.
I'm just trying to survive.
These conversations that we have, behind closed doors, and I hear some of the audiences sometimes turn up their nose at some content because they feel like, oh my goodness, this doesn't, portray us as a people. But the point is, what do we stand for as a people, and do we have any responsibility as an industry?
I think as an industry, it's almost impossible to take care of everything. At the end of the day, like I was saying earlier, that it's a blue sky. There's so many different people, so many different ideas, so many different types of concepts that are available. Some movies are made to showcase the beauty and amazingness of being Nigerian.
Yeah.
Some movies that showcase this guy cheating on his wife, and this is what happened. So at the end of the day, you can't say that it's Hollywood's job to make America look great. If that's their job, they're not doing a great job. How many aliens have invaded America?
Yeah, what's going on your
But
Like who's there, Captain America?
it's just creativity. Yes, it's the easiest way for people outside of Nigeria to see what it's like inside, which is part of the reason we started the app. So
Exactly.
we can showcase the positive, the positive, the negative, the everything, the real. And I don't think it's fair to just say that it's Nollywood's job to make Nigeria look great. When people are talking about Burna Boy, there's the good. Yes, he's a party guy. He's saying Nigeria is great, but he's also doing some stuff in the background.
Also bashing Afrobeats
And he's also
at the
bashing.
same time,
So it's not his job to make Nigeria look great. It's his job to make good music, to make you dance. He's a musician, that's his job. As filmmakers, we're supposed to entertain you. And hopefully that's what we're doing.
Wow, we call it.
Wow.
If our job was, I think, if you focus on telling really good stories, irrespective of what it is, and you are proud of what you do, and you give it your best, you are really showcasing what Nigeria is, no matter what story that's telling. Right? So for me, I cannot, because you also want to create stuff that is relatable, right?
Yeah.
You want something that Nigerians can see and say, yes, that's great. So take wedding party, it showcases Nigerian culture, how we do our weddings, how we get married. But at the same time, you got a cheating husband, and all Nigerian men cheat, maybe. Yes.
Wow.
But
The answer is no.
You don't automatically assume that everyone is like that. You watch your thing, not all Americans carry guns. Sorry, I may be wrong as well. But I'm just saying, our role is to entertain, and that's the first thing. If we do that properly and people love what we do, we are automatically or invariably selling Nigeria.
Amazing.
It's a good
Round
but
of applause.
I'll add to that. I agree with what everyone has said.
Okay.
But there is a responsibility.
You're about you are all about to meet the moral core of Inkblot.
There is a responsibility.
Okay.
Here's the thing, I don't think you should pour all your responsibility into one film. You have many films and many opportunities to express yourself and be responsible and whatnot, but there is a responsibility. I think that a lot of things that we have imbibed as Nigerians, Indian culture through their films, Western culture, now Korean culture, is through their films.
Yes.
And if we're able to tell stories and have characters that represent the better parts of ourselves, we will be better off.
Amazing.
So I'm not saying you should go out there and bring a moral story, moral lesson for everybody to learn, even though that's what the census board is trying to do. But my point is there is a responsibility, and that responsibility is not on filmmakers alone. It's on every single Nigerian in every single thing you're doing. But everyone needs to know that they have that ambassadorship that they are carrying as Nigerians. It's part of your patriotism. There is a responsibility.
Amazing.
But it's not only for filmmakers.
Amazing.
You know what it is there? Sorry.
Yes, I want to. Before you go for you did mention something about not, just going out there to tell a story that is basically about the moral codes. But I think that in weaving of good stories, you should have characters who are like moral compasses that embody the kind of values that we want to tell as filmmakers, without it being on the loose or being in the face
Yeah, but
You learn lessons from it.
Yes, yes.
Oral characters.
It's such a big assumption that not every filmmaker wants to pass on value. Somebody came and asked us, like, do we distribute porn? Like, what's the value in porn? Like, so so that's my point, because that's an assumption that like somebody might not see the value in porn, somebody else might, or whatever it is. But I think that film is just film. I do believe I have the responsibility. I'm not putting it on any of my colleagues or my friends, but I have a responsibility to storytellers. I have a responsibility to producers. I sit on a different kind of seat. Really, I'm a GM in the studio, and I generally manage. That's, if anything. So, to be honest, when I get a script and I say, that's not Nigerian, that doesn't sound like a Nigerian, that's where my responsibility starts. I'm not going to reshape your story to be. And then another thing with Nigerian producers, not producers in general, to be honest, because I always ask, when I was in distribution, I used to ask, do you want to change the world or do you want to make money? And they always said, I want to change the world. And I say, you're a liar. Because you spent money to make that film. They always say it's a passion project, I'm with you, bro. But you still want that name, you still want that glory itself. It's kind of like what you define as success, what you define as being commercial. And then the people say, oh, I want to tell an authentic Nigerian story. Bro, the very fact that you put pen to paper and you wrote a story, you've accomplished one thing. Whether it's authentic or not, it's based on the audience. Because remember, Nigeria is over 200 tribes. I'm Tiv. I'm not one of the big three on this stage. One of them I'm missing here. But when I watch a Yoruba film, I don't feel like it's speaking to me. But then I'm entertained. I'm understanding their culture. I'm watching something else. So to just say, oh, as a Nigerian filmmaker, you have responsibility, I agree. It's just a diversified responsibility. Everybody just picks what they want to tell or what to push or whatever it is. And I have this argument with filmmakers all the time, like, oh, this is a festival film, this is a what film. I'm like, bro, just make a film.
Yeah. Okay, a brilliant filmmaker made a short film called My Mama Na Shawo. Oh, yes. In case you don't know what Shawo is, it's a Nigerian lingua for prostitutes. So, the film went on to premiere at one of our biggest festivals in Nigeria, Africa. And I remember in the hall that people were like, oh, Shawo, that's why not? Why not just tone down the word? It's too vulgar. And I said to her, I don't understand why people. Listen, for me, I came in here because I heard that title, My Mother Shawo. Ooh, let me see if I Shawo film. Yeah, but I watched it and I was so impressed. That film went on to premiere in International Festival. It did so good. And because she told an original Nigerian story of a kid who has a mom that lives in Gotham, and he was going to school, they asked him to write an essay about his mom, and he came back to say, My mother, Shawo. I mean, it's realistic, so you can't tell me now that, oh, that's not morally right. It is.
No, that's not the kind of responsibility.
I know, but that's the telling. That's the telling the story as it should be an authentic story. For me, yes, it's good to make Nigeria look cool, but I mean, I cannot come and say our politics in Nigeria is 100% way better than shit. So I want to tell us it is. So
I'll tell you that person did a responsible film.
Oh, okay.
Because it's also responsible for you to show what is as it is.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you should like paint, over what is happening and make things look clean and good and all of that. But someone said something yesterday about how they can make another location look like other locations, right? And she mentioned putting dirt on the streets to make it look like Lagos.
And not everybody in Lagos.
But it's the truth, right? So that's because that's what people see, right?
That's what we should.
But it's not all Lagos streets that are.
Yeah, because when Mamu did it, Mamu took the market.
Yes.
It did look like Lagos.
Yes.
So it depends on the perspective of where you're seeing it, that's the location from.
So that's my point about responsibility. Is that what we want people to continue to think about us?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's real, but if there are other films that compete with that realness.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of responsibility, I feel it's relative because the responsibility cannot be on just you as a filmmaker. Because number one, we don't even have the support of the government. So half of these things, before the streamers came and all these corporate started to give money to filmmakers, it was coming out of people's personal pockets. So you're talking about millions of naira to make a very, very good film. So I feel like it's different for everybody. So there's a producer, there's a director. So in terms of this, from the script in the story, you start to think of where do I want to show. So just like the person said, put dirt on the street, what part of Lagos is that? Is that Ademola? Is that this place? Is that place? So you as the director, you have your own responsibility of what you want to show that can depict where you're from. I'm a costume designer. I took it upon myself to say, okay, I'm doing a Nigerian film. How do I make this Nigerian enough? When I was doing the exhibition, the installation is outside. I remember when Martin was asking me, oh, I like this green piece, what's it about? It was won by Rita Dominic. I created that piece because she was going to see, her character was going to see her crush in the office. And I said, how do I make her enter that office and everybody's going to turn and say, you're going to a bank, there's a certain way you would look in a bank. So I said, okay, I'll put in an African Nigerian fabric called Akwete, popular in Delta, and I'll put like a fascinator. So it's woven traditionally, it's an ethnic indigenous piece to Delta people. Not everybody knows it, but then everybody knew what it was. Same way you're doing a Yoruba wedding. What do Yoruba people wear? Actually, you don't always have to do that in terms of like an agbada or skirt or wrapper, but you can take that same fabric and make it into a really stunning dress. I did that in Blood Sisters with intention, like, okay, what can I use this Okereke to do? So in doing that, I'm able to, my own responsibility is taking our fashion, putting it on in a movie that will now travel. And I know how many DMs I get, oh, I like this one, I like that one. In the last 2 days, I've had to explain what this is. I've had to explain that pop one like yes, but it wasn't that, but then I start to tell you, then you start to be interested. And I think one of the best things I actually did was a wedding party where the parents of Damola, they were white people, and they were married into a Nigerian family. And they had to wear pieces. It was interesting just putting on them. But they're like, oh, this is the filler, this is the gele. So I've done my responsibility as a filmmaker to travel the culture. But you can't ask me to now go and build the pyramid or whatever, because there are limits to this thing in terms of
that would be the builder's responsibility.
Exactly, production design. So it's a whole other element.
Yolanda, you jumped ahead of me because you wanted to avoid me introducing you, but you've not escaped that. Just in case you don't know, that beautiful exhibition out there with the different beautiful Nigerian fabrics belongs to Yolanda Okereke. Oh, by the way, she styled me this morning. Yeah, interesting.
So what she's wearing in Nigeria, we call it a bubu. It's just free, flowy, and it's regal. It makes you look really expensive and rich. We call it rich and
Yeah, rich and That's me. Okay, amazing. So do you want to tell us more about that? Because I was about to go into that and say, in terms of how we use costume design to represent culture in our movies and characters in movies. What have you done so far? Tell us more about your work on Blood Sisters, the wedding party, how you use clothes to represent mood, whatever it is that you've done over the years.
So everything starts from the story. So the story determines what direction you're going to go in telling the film. So when you hear wedding party, that's a wedding. So there's the Igbo family, there's the Yoruba family, two different cultures that they now come and then they meet. It was a white wedding, but we felt it was important to also just show the culture. But typically a white wedding in Nigeria, we wear English. But we're like, oh, it's film, creative license, so we can make the Igbo parents look Igbo, tie their grandpa, their George, Ishagu. I'm sorry, I'm actually just calling the native names of these outfits. And then the Agbada, the Yoruba people wore them. So what we do, we try to throw in a lot of color. You want to make it beautiful because Nigerian weddings are loud. Yes. So I think we're able to achieve that with costuming, with food. So we actually put the whole culture when it came to the wedding for that film. Then we have like the Blood Sisters. Blood Sisters, just like we're talking about this whole culture, new culture. It was an elite film. Everybody there had money. We're talking billions. So I just said, okay, how can I put the culture where I can put the culture? There was a wedding in the film, there's that one. There was an engagement dinner, there's that. So I chose to use as many Nigerian fabrics as possible from the Okereke to the George to make all of these pieces. And then you have to also fit these pieces into what the story is, who these people are. So if you take it, a wedding in Lagos is different from a wedding in Accra.
Everywhere in the world.
So every wedding depends on, so there's taste. There's the different levels of money. So a $1 billion wedding is different from a $1 million wedding. So you're going to see the difference is going to be there, like all of your face scale. So there was that, which most of them are already outside. But what was most interesting of what the project I had done was far from home. So I worked with Damola closely, that was my production designer at the time. So we're like, how do we make this as Nigerian as possible? I said, Damola, it's simple. Nigerian flag is green and white. She was like, green? I said, there are different shades of green. There's forest green, there's bottle green, there's this green. I said, you know what, I'll show you. So I went and I got different fabric samples and we're picking. I said, Damola, this thing is easy, that's the color. So we now chose that because 60% of the movie you see the students in school uniform. We're like, okay, how do we put our culture? So we chose our Nigerian flag. They wear white shirts and they wear green.
Nollywood's responsibility.
So you see, we're very responsible filmmakers. We're set in Nigeria. So there was not the tie. So we're like, Damola was like, but the tie cannot be green and white. I said, don't worry, we're throwing one or two things here and there. So we added a few other colors like pipe in the lapel, with yellow, with grey, just making it very Western, but still being able to say this kind of represents us. Because we had to look at every other YA show and say, okay, what were they doing? We thought the green was very strong. We went through a series of, how many samples? It was plenty. We illustrated, we did everything, and now we finally did the D photo shoot. Then we now said, yes, we have our students. And when we were filming, everybody that came to that set, because we were filming very close to a very prestigious business school, someone actually came and wanted to enroll their child. We were like, oh, yeah, actually. So then we knew we had made an impact, and everybody loved it.
All right, so we have one more question before we get questions from the audience, and I just want to ask, what do you see as the next move for Nigeria or Nollywood on the global stage? What are your aspirations? What do you hope the next milestones will be for us?
To not be called Nigerian film.
I love that.
I'm sure everybody has an answer, but I would really love our talents to just be, because it's Hollywood, it's things and everything. They seem to just like to streamline what you are to that role. So it's like, oh, I'm looking for a Nigerian, but like, they can act, why can't they just be
Actors.
the actors? Why does it have to be my identity or I mean, to be honest, I'm very strong about where I feel very passionate being Nigerian. I carry my Nigerian pride anywhere. But I would just like to be on that global stage as just I'll be proud of wherever I come from, but just be me. I'm thankful for the David of the world and the children and everything. But like those Nigerian actors crossing over, that would be fantastic.
Amazing. All right, guys, yeah?
I mean, for us, we are trying to not just be called a Nigerian production company, but trying to be a Pan-African production company. But I think one of the things that we really want to do is to be able to not do like an international production in the sense of outside of the country to shoot, outside of the country to shoot, but we want a situation where you can have an international production in Nigeria. As much as I love South Africa, I hate the fact that a lot of the international productions come to South Africa and they do not come to Nigeria. There's an anime that I've followed for like almost 20 years now called One Piece. And I was shocked when I heard that it was going to be shot in Cape Town. And I just before I came here, it came out on Netflix and I was like, I haven't seen it yet, I'm saving it. And I'm like, holy shit. I would love that to happen in Nigeria one day, where a Japanese anime gets shot in Nigeria and it's based off of characters that people know all over the world. That's one thing I would love to do next.
So I think we're already on our way there. We're sitting on this panel, it's not happening in Nigeria, it's happening in Cape Town. We're already there. We had a Nigerian day. first of its kind at Essence Festival this year. We showed a Nigerian movie, and half the people in that saw the movie, they were not Nigerian, and they could relate to it. So you're on that journey. Last year at the Smithsonian Museum, I had a piece being displayed. I had to make a piece for Ike. He did a whole book called Nollywood Poetry, and it was remarkable. The people that came to see were not Nigerians, and you have portraits of all the RMDs, the Jacket Silvers. He sat there for 9 months at the Smithsonian Museum of Arts and Culture in DC. So we are already on that path. We just need to stop this whole, what's the word? I think the word filming, but it does say this Nigerian. We are filmmakers.
Amazing. Alright, I'm gonna go.
That's where I see the future of Nollywood. I see us having more collaborations with international businesses. Like Yolanda said, the fact that we're here means that there's a start. During the course of the market, I met some guys from China that are saying, why don't we find ways to work together? I met people from South Africa, and that's where I think the next level is, where we start doing great collaborations. You have people from Kenya, Nigeria working together in South Africa.
Amazing.
Many stories to tell, and the more we work together, the more we can achieve.
Thank you, Jite. Do we have questions from the audience? I see one here. Alright, do we have the mics? Go around quickly. We have about 5 to 10 minutes to wrap, so please make it quick.
Good morning. My name is Caroline. I'm from FilmOne Films. I'm a South African producer. I worked a lot in Lagos in 2008 to 2013, 14, doing commercials, Jite Bank, Airtime, a lady playing soccer.
I'm in Nigeria.
I'm in Nigeria.
Yes.
But I'm very excited about the South African Nigerian co-production treaty that's finally been signed and almost about to be ratified, we hope. So I look forward to co-production. The question is, as South Africa, we can bring, for the foreigners coming here, they get 25% tax rebate on the spend. The South African qualifying spend. As a co-producer, I can bring 40% of the co-production. So in Nigeria, you don't have the tax incentive, okay? You have the industry bank, and how does one co-produce with Nigeria? Where will you bring your 40% or your 25%, whatever percent it is, to the table, and how it's going to work? So I'm interested to know. Maybe having a co-production treaty and it's not going to be able to be, something we can use.
Amazing.
I'm not sure I heard it.
So, okay, it's about the co-production. So, it's about trying to do a co-production between South Africa and Nigeria. They have their tax rebates. So that basically reduces their burden, financial burden. On our side, since we don't have that, we basically, on a number of our productions, have to then fund fully 100%, which is why it's really difficult for a lot of foreign parties to come produce in Nigeria, because everyone looks at it and says, rather than produce in Nigeria, I'll go to Kenya, I'll go to South Africa, where it's a lot cheaper, or go to Morocco, for example, and try and make it look like Nigeria. Where yesterday, if I wasn't here, I would have met with the Minister for the Creative Economy and all of that, and that's one of the things that we wanted to discuss with him, and try to get him to go for that instead. Because once you do that, then you can get much bigger productions coming into Nigeria. So it's not a case of, oh, we will license your content. Rather than do that, we would come in, let's shoot something, let's do something bigger, knowing fully well that that bit is there. We're still working on that, but up until that is done, on the Nigerian side, we'll have to fund fully 100%.
And one thing to add, because I'm assuming tax rebates is to lessen the burden of the financial on you, but to be honest, shooting in Nigeria already reduces the financial burden on you. It's way cheaper. It's more affordable. But then you're still able to pay through a healthy amount to that standard, really. Because I have had people, because of production services that we do, the British films have been shot in Nigeria. In fact, they don't even want to leave. That's the stressful part. Like, dude, you don't adjust your flight, please go. Anything. And they get every single thing that they do need, and it's just more affordable for them. So their budget is cut half the price because they've come to Nigeria, and they have the exchange rate also helps as well. So as much as that there's no tax rebate and all of that, there's still very more affordable ways that you can shoot your film and still get that quality that you need. So I get it. Tax incentives are sweet, underlining incentives, but they're like way more amazing incentives if you look at the other things that really benefit except that tax bit effectively. But that's my experience.
All right, second person. There was someone here. All right.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that you guys have shared with us. I was maybe probably following up on that question because I
Sorry,
hello, sorry. Yeah, we want to come through and actually do a lot of work on that side, but the transparency. Do you guys have like a space where someone can see a crew rate, can see what it would cost to do? So because if you don't project, there's no way you can tell your investors that we want to do this thing. It sounds great and it's great for the culture, which I'm big for the culture. We need more and more doing stuff together for the culture. But we need transparency on crew rates and that sort of stuff. And then also, quick question, second question, festivals in Nigeria. You mentioned one. Yeah. Is there ways where you can find out which ones are the biggest ones and how does that work?
I think all of us recommend.
So if we look at festivals, there's the big one, which is Afrif, which is probably like the biggest festival out of Nigeria. But then there's NIF, so there are like about 3 of them, right? That we can. But I guess we can. Nigeria is one of those places where if you really are looking for information, you'll find it. It's a diamond, and almost everybody is accessible and reachable. Concerning our crew rates, again, it's one of those things where it comes down to the scope of your movie and the scale of your movie. So the rates are very
there's no universal rate.
So there's no universal rate for anything. But again, there's a minimum rate.
Yes.
But again, Mimi does production services for a bunch of people. Zulu is our head of production. If you ever want to know rates for anything, those 2 ladies can help you. I can.
So I would just like to add that when it comes to crew rate in Nigeria, it's a project, depending on the project, the length of the project. Some projects pay you put on a monthly salary of 3 months of production. If it's 6 months, 8 months production, then a monthly salary. But if it's a 3 weeks or 5 weeks production, you get like up rate, and some people actually still charge a daily rate. But it just depends on the level of the crew member you're hiring. We have different levels, tier A, tier C. So you're going to obviously like redo your research and find out how much what they've done, how much a day. But we don't have that data because I know Kenya have a data because your rate card is sent to me all the time. So I am up to date with Kenya's rate card, which we get a lot. But I know that Nigeria wouldn't have that. I think it's something that we might end up working on.
There's no people working on that.
There's something possible.
Actually, we have a crew because for us with the movies that we do, we already have like a set standard. We know what an AD, what you're going to pay an AD, what you're going to pay a DOP, what you're going to pay your director. So again, what you have is a situation where, because we do stuff for theatrical, right? My rates and Mimi's rate are pretty similar. But if you're doing something for YouTube, for example, I can't tell you what that rate will be because it's going to be much smaller. Right? But on the theatrical side, or people who do stuff for like Netflix and Amazon, our rates are pretty similar. Yeah, it's fine.
So I also think it's who you're talking to. So it depends on who you're talking to. So the different production houses. So you now decide who you want to talk to, then they can tell you. Because like Inkblot, they have a list of who they've worked with all the time on their different projects. So they can tell you these are these people's rates. So if you're going to work in like Saba, that's an entirely different rate. If you want to do YouTube, I just shot something on YouTube. I didn't realize because I've done more film than YouTube. It's very, very small. But there are people that understand that and it's like the day rate and you can afford it. So it depends on who you're talking to.
Amazing. All right.
Yes, hello. Wow, insightful panel discussion. So thank you so much. My question is to know what is the state of film education in Nigeria? Is it affordable? And what kind of work do you do in terms of mentoring? I was talking to you yesterday and you told me that you mentor some youth. So just like for the upcoming generation that's coming after you, what is being done in Nigeria?
So the Accelerate TV family, we are 8 years old, and we realized when we entered the entertainment industry, the filmmaking industry, production, that the industry is not governed. So that's why, for example, the question about rates is difficult to answer because it depends on haven't unionized, we don't have all that yet, but we're slowly getting there. Because I remember back in the day when I was working with Bella Niger, an online platform, nobody wanted to advertise online. Everybody wanted to go on newspapers and billboards. And we literally went door to door to explain the complexity of advertising online and how good it is. And that was where other platforms started using the Bella Niger rates.
Yeah.
So now, online advertising in Nigeria, they're all rated and they're all similar. So I'm thinking the same thing is going to happen with film. But as I was saying, in terms of education, Accelerate, we realized that there wasn't much. It wasn't easy to find your way into filmmaking. You had to know someone that introduced you to someone. So we created the Filmmaker Project, where once a year we invite people online, it doesn't matter where you're from, online to do a task. And then we pick 100, I think the first year we picked 100 people. And then from those 100 people, they did a task, and then we had 50 people came in for a 2-week intensive training course where you're trained by industry leaders like Kemi Adixba, Kula Fulayo. All those kind of people came and taught you from production to set design to social media management to finance. And then 5 of those people got to make films that we fully funded.
Some of them have become amazing filmmakers.
Yeah, that's the free program, by the way. They don't pay a lot to get into it.
Yeah. So for us, it's about education, empowerment, and entertainment. So we want to make sure that the future of the film industry have the contacts. And so they started building little networks amongst themselves.
We got to hire some of them to come direct for us.
Some of them worked with people like Amasamis, I think he was a banker.
Yes.
He was a banker and he came to do the filmmaking project, and now he's one of the biggest up-and-coming filmmakers.
There are different ones. There's definitely like Academy. Yeah, there's what's the Del York? There are so many of them.
And just around.
There's Tata, there are over 10.
Yeah, just around.
And they're full, like they can't even get everybody to come into like a session. So there are a whole lot of them.
But we are talking to Canada about creating an education project. So
yes.
Yeah.
Can we get that? Yeah.
Yes, someone else to say something.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, she does need a mic, please.
Sorry. Just that last.
Oh, she wanted to ask. Oh, yeah. Sorry. No. We follow the rules. Yeah, sorry.
Please go for it.
Okay, I have 2 questions. Thank you for coming out. I'm loving everything you guys are saying. For Yolanda, the first question.
Sorry,
Yolanda. For Yolanda, the first question I have is, can you tell me a little bit about, can you share a little bit about your creative process from the time you receive a script? And I wanted to know if you've ever worked on anything that was kind of that's not Nigerian, if you ever worked for anyone else. And my second question for your theaters, what is the percentage of how much film in your theaters is Nigerian versus international film? What's the percentage?
So we'll just answer everything.
I'm Nigerian, so passionate.
Good morning, I'm Jite with the Black Screen Office in Canada. I'm curious about how, as Canadians who are very interested in making projects with Nigeria, how we can have the confidence that 100% that you have to raise is going to make it into the film. Because we are so paper dependent that any money that we get out of Canada, which is a lot from various government sources, needs to have paper to back up any funding that's coming from another source.
I'll try to summarize that as quickly as possible so every other person can answer the question. So it's a really long process. So from the point where I get the script, I have to read the script. I do a breakdown. In doing the breakdown, then I do the budget. Then I always like to have conversations with my director because the truth is every film is made by a director, so it's the director's vision. I need to make sure my vision and his vision or her vision is aligned. And after that, there's a good book and a mood book where we can start to agree on looks, color palette, style, and everything, because you don't want to take it out of context because you don't trying to be too fashionable or too under fashion. So the conversation that leads to the final mood board, then we get to a tentative budget, tentative because it still might change if the director adds one thing or the other. And once the budget is approved, the look is approved, we go into production. So whilst you're in production, you're awaiting the cast list, or you already have a cast list. So you're engaging with the cast list that you're starting to produce, you have to feed. But we don't put in set, it has to be done before then, because once in production, you're going boom, 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 boom. It's 3 weeks, you don't have time for that. So it's a process I can talk to you about after we move here. Yeah.
Then I'll answer. So in terms of, I think, versus the Nigerian film in Nigerian cinema, right? So I think last year it was about 60% Nollywood and 40% Hollywood. And looking like with this writer's strike, it's probably be 80% Hollywood at this point. Because the amount of movies that have moved, and that's by the way, yeah. But to be honest, we're very head-to-head with Hollywood in Nigeria, because people really do love Nollywood comedy. There are people that just come and say, any Nollywood film show you. Like, no, but it's Hollywood, but I'm asking Nollywood. So we're very part of our, and to be honest, if it's a Hollywood film, it needs to be like a Marvel film. So you can't just be like an independent film and hope for the best. It has to be something that has like global appeal. Like, I'm still traumatized by Barbie at this point, really. And we did release an Hollywood film with Barbie, and it still broke records as well. So it's heads to head.
And then
yes.
Okay. I think that it's really the same way you do it in Canada. You have to be your due diligence with anybody who's trying to get into business. I don't assume that any Canadian you reach just automatically assume that they're putting 100% into the film as well. So with Nigerians, whoever you meet, you have to speak to them and see how they do their work historically. And then there's, for instance, Inkblot, we have paperwork.
We have full paperwork, we have an auditor, we have an accountant.
Yeah,
so
when you work together, you have auditors as well for the project.
Yeah, I mean, we work with Deloitte. We understand. We've always been about data transparency. What becomes for. So every single paper trail you will ever need exists. I know we have to do research before.
Thank you very much. Amazing.
Thank you. Sorry, we talk too much.
Yeah.